Oi, bom dia a todos que estão entrando aqui na nossa sala. Eu vou dar alguns minutinhos para o pessoal entrar, eu estou vendo aqui, está todo mundo entrando, e a gente já começa, tá bom? Mais um minutinho e a gente começa. Bom, pessoal, vamos começando aqui. As pessoas que forem chegando vão entrando e fazendo as primeiras introduções e apresentação. Primeiro, bem-vindo a todos à nossa apresentação de hoje. Estou vendo aqui alguns nomes conhecidos na lista. Espero que esteja todo mundo me ouvindo bem. Qualquer coisa vocês podem informar pelo chat, tem um botão ali embaixo do chat, vocês podem mandar uma mensagem se vocês não estiverem vendo ou escutando bem. Obrigada por reservarem um tempinho do dia de hoje de vocês para estarem aqui conosco. Meu nome é Rita Standerski, eu sou diretora de operações da Goya Consultoria, e nós somos parceiros exclusivos da Ticket aqui no Brasil. A nossa série de webinars, As 10 Verdades sobre o Lançamento de Horas, será apresentado pelo Peter Zver, presidente da Ticket North America. Ele atua há mais de 2 décadas no mercado jurídico norte-americano e europeu. E hoje ele vai apresentar 3 das 10 verdades sobre o lançamento de horas. Contamos com o apoio e a organização da ILTA, a mais importante associação de tecnologia da área jurídica. A apresentação vai ser feita em inglês e a gente tem um recurso de tradução simultânea para português, que está ativo no Zoom. Então, ali embaixo, na parte inferior da tela de vocês, tem um globinho, Interpretation, então vocês podem selecionar lá e selecionar qual idioma vocês querem ouvir a apresentação. Então, o idioma original vai ser inglês e tem a tradução para o português. A gente vai enviar para vocês, após o webinar, esses slides em português também, tá? Este webinar ele vai ter a duração aproximada de 25 minutos, e ao final dele a gente está reservando 5 minutos para perguntas que serão respondidas ao vivo. O recurso para fazer perguntas pode ser acessado também na parte inferior da tela de vocês, nesse ícone com os 2 balõezinhos, Q&A. Então, se vocês tiverem perguntas, basta escrever as perguntas lá, pode ser em português ou em inglês, e no final da apresentação a gente vai responder alguma dessas perguntas. A última informação antes da gente começar, se vocês perderem alguma coisa, não se preocupem, a gente vai enviar a gravação do webinar a todos que participaram, assim que estiver disponível. Bom, apresentações feitas, os recursos acho que estão claros. Se alguém tiver alguma dúvida, pode enviar aqui pelo chat, se tiver alguma dificuldade. Mas as perguntas sobre a apresentação, por favor, usar o ícone com os 2 balãozinhos. Well, hi, Peter. It's nice to have you here with us today. I'm setting my microphone on mute. So your turn, please. Welcome here.
Well, thank you very much, Rita. Thanks everyone for joining today. It's a pleasure to deliver this presentation. Also a special thanks to ILTA who's sponsoring this, and obviously Goya for putting it together. What we're talking about today is contemporaneous timekeeping, specifically around the challenges of timekeeping, and 3 of the 10 truths that I published probably about 3 years ago with regards to timekeeping. I've been working in timekeeping space in the legal industry for about 20 years. And as we all know, it's every lawyer's favorite activity, tracking time, or not. And the challenges over the years, and in my case, over the decades, have been, as I would say, challenging and ever evolving, so to speak. The word that comes to mind most often is procrastination. We all experience procrastination, and there are many reasons why. We see, obviously, attorneys, highly intellectual professionals who are very much engaged in their cases, their clients. Admin is always secondary. And it's always a valid excuse. We can't get the time in. It will come in later. I got to take care of the client, which is a good, which is fair. Also, the distance to enter time is often far. What I mean by that is we record, or attorneys record, very small increments of time. They're very granular in the exercise of timekeeping, and to invest, 3 to 5 minutes to access electronic input for a 5-minute call is not proportional, and that's always a challenge. We also have mismatched goals. The firm administration wants perfection. They want perfection in the first registration of time. The lawyers need to get their work done and record what they did. It's that simple. So we'll talk a little bit about mismatched goals in a later webinar. It's one of the truths, but it's not going to be discussed today. So stay tuned for that. But that's also one of the reasons why procrastination happens. Service anytime, anywhere. Professionals are time constrained. They're delivering services from anywhere. We're seeing that today where everybody's home working and possibly on the go as well. So an environment that is time constrained also contributes to challenges of recording work accurately. So there's many, many reasons for procrastinating in this exercise. And we're going to try to see if we can address these challenges and hopefully address a better timekeeping. When we say better timekeeping or good timekeeping, what do we mean by good timekeeping? So let's maybe go with a definition here. And the definition I'm going to lead through example. We see obviously all of your law firms have budgets and targets. One of the primary targets is billable hours. We have an example here of 125 billable hours per month is a typical target. I'm not sure in Brazil, but in Canada, it's about that. In the US, it's probably 140, depending on the state, give or take. So the majority of lawyers often meet these targets and sometimes exceed them. Are they good timekeepers? We ask the question. Can we brand everyone who achieves their billable hours target as good timekeepers? Well, if we go further down and you see the example where lawyer A is recording hours, 70 hours in the first 20 days and sprints in with 55 hours in the last 2 days of the month. And that's common behavior where we're coming up against the month and we're entering time, not contemporaneously throughout the month. Lawyer B, however, is registering diligently 6 billable hours per day, every day. Both achieve their target. However, lawyer B, we could all say, without even any scientific evidence here, that lawyer B is a better timekeeper than lawyer A. So the message here is the effectiveness or what is good timekeeping and what is timekeeping performance, it's really about the road to the target. It's not necessarily the target. It's the road to the target, how we're achieving that target, how that inventory is being built up throughout the month and the year. So one of the metrics I'd like to introduce here is called lag to capture. So we brought this to market probably 20 years ago, 15 to 20 years ago, as a clear metric against timekeeping. And the lag to capture metric, essentially, definition is the time between when the work was done and when it was recorded in electronic form. So that is the pure definition of lag to capture. It measures the journey. It measures the journey of contemporaneous timekeeping, okay? It's not focused on the target. So time entered on Friday for Monday would represent a lag of 4 days, okay? So that is the metric. The metric here is for that type of entry. The industry average is about 3 to 4 days in North America, specifically the US. And it's funny because we've taken a lot of data sets from a lot of our clients, and we noticed that it is dependent on the culture. And we noticed that in Europe and the UK, the lag metrics are a lot lower, somewhere in the area of 1.75 to 2 days. So their discipline is obviously also related to the culture and also the impact of the governance strategy in the law firm and the effect the admin has on lawyer behavior. So, but obviously firms who are taking timekeeping seriously are all looking at lag metrics below 1.0. So that's where the goals are. One, first define the metric, and two, set a target for that metric. And the progressive firms today are looking at under 1. So this metric is 100% connected to timekeeping performance. If a law firm loses 3 of their top clients and their billable hours go down, that's not a reflection of bad timekeeping. Their timekeeping can actually go up, and their profitability due to other variables go down. The firm is still performing well in the timekeeping function, irrespective of some of the other business factors that contribute to bottom line results. And it's 100% connected to the quality of time inventory. Like in manufacturing, the better the quality of the production, the less spoilage, the more realization at the end in terms of less returns. So we have a measure of quality here, not quantity, but of quality. And I also define this metric as a super metric. What I mean by super metric is a metric that correlates directly with others. So I like to measure one thing, and I know by measuring one element, there will be multiple metrics that will correlate and improve with it. A good example of that, and we're going to diverge from the business of law into health here, but steps. Steps is a great super metric in terms of health and fitness. If you discuss among your family and friends, there's one thing we always talk: how many steps did you do today? It's universal. It's what I consider a super metric. It's one number. It's easy to understand. It's very visible because there's the endpoints are the cell phones and what we call the fitness watches today. So it's accessible. It's one, and it's simple, and it's a lead metric. Hence the term super metric, meaning that if someone wants to improve their health and uses these steps metric, the calories, distance, heart rate, all the downstream metrics will correlate. So if I'm going to promote and motivate against something, I don't need to present 5 elements that are obviously more complex. I just got to present one. And we're going to connect this back into timekeeping in the next slide. So it's a great example of a super metric, simple, that we could emulate in our world, which is timekeeping. So back to our lag to capture, again, a single number measured in days, as you could see on the left, 3.8. It's accessible, obviously, through your applications. It could be accessible through phones, just like a step metric. It's one number, easy to understand, and it is a lead metric as well. So in the business of law, realization rates, meaning what am I actually collecting on the hours that I've worked, collection rates, less write-offs, the number of days to billing, all these will track positively if this super metric also tracks positively. And hence why we call it a super metric in this world. And probably one of the key takeaways of this presentation is this metric can actually be promoted externally to firm clients. There's nothing better than having internal initiatives that can connect to your client relationship. Unlike a message around quantity is about improving revenue and profit, and we're going to track more time because we're going to be better at it, and that's something that's very difficult to promote externally to your clients who are also challenging you on price and value. It's a hard message, but promoting externally a lag metric like this, which contributes to quality of time and contributes to the message of transparency and trust, okay, and your relationship, that's a good message. So here you have a metric that can improve your quality, improve realization, improve profitability, and you could promote externally, so it's quite powerful as a metric and an initiative. And that leads us into motivation, okay? I wanted to address the metric first because you'll see in terms of motivation, and when we're talking here, we're really talking about carrot versus the stick, and I don't know the expression in Portuguese if that still carries through, but the stick approach is still very prevalent, where we're penalizing, we're chasing. These are the against a process that is possibly not working. So we've seen things like holding back pay, systems being shut down to force people to get time in on time, fines every time you're late by X amount of days. There's a penalty per day. I've seen many examples of the stick approach. And why is it there? Because the pain of time entry. It's a painful process that obviously leads to procrastination, and that's when the stick approach has to come in. And these are some of the tactics that have been deployed and are being deployed in the industry today. I show an example here, and this is just a typical screen that I picked off of Google somewhere. It's a timesheet, and what I'm trying to illustrate here is complexity, lack of accessibility, getting to an area for capture, and then imagine trying to put in 5 minutes of a phone call into a complex mechanism, as you see here. The lawyer persona, again, back to the point, I take care of my clients, I'm working on a file, I don't have time to travel very far to record small increments of activity, hence the delays, hence the penalty, and hence the stick at the end. So what we're trying to say here is the stick is being used because of a byproduct of other things that need to be improved. if we ever want to eliminate the stick motivation method. The carrot approach, however, is where a lot of progressive firms today are moving. There is opportunity today to move in this direction. And one of the first things when we move in this direction, again, is we need a metric. What will motivate? What will set the bar? Like the STEP was a motivation for fitness and health and activity, and all of a sudden other metrics start improving. We use like to capture as that single metric here, connected to the carrot approach for motivation. And what has been done in the past in the fitness world, I'm going back to the fitness world here a little bit. There was a study done to see if fitness apps and the data or the metrics within lead to higher activity levels. There's a link back here. This was done in 2019. And the study did prove there is evidence supporting the effectiveness, not only the smartphone app or the watches, because that is an endpoint, that is the delivery, but the data, obviously, and the metrics on it, i.e. steps to increase physical activity. So there was studies done that, this type of motivation, meaning a carrot approach, a metric, and accessibility to it, promoted more activity. So can we, again, emulate that leading into our world of timekeeping? I call it measure to motivate as a tagline. It sounded nice, so I put it there. But really, you got to measure first and then use it to motivate. So the first things to do when a firm embarks on this journey, accepts this as a valid mechanism and initiative, is obviously awareness and definition. It's probably not obvious to a lot of law firms, and even in North America, I would say it's probably under 20% who are taking timekeeping to this level. You obviously have to create the definition and promote awareness. So not only awareness from obviously starting at the leadership, but right down to the timekeepers as well. Policy connection, if we're going to define that metric, should we put a target? For example, in 6 months, we want the velocity or a lag metric to go from 4 down to 1.5, and we want to track that. And we want to, have a peer monitoring system where individuals can compare themselves against these targets or against other peers. Just like, we have conversations around the dinner table. How many steps did you do today? That's a peer exercise that's going on against a metric that promotes activity and health. Same here, and that can be done through applications, intranet, any other channels of information that you have in your law firms, where this metric now becomes sort of a de facto standard for timekeeping performance. Rewards. Obviously, I've just put a couple up here from fitness apps where, as you achieve X levels, you get recognized. Again, that's part of the motivation. The reward mechanism is part of the motivation exercise, and that could, again, be translated into the timekeeping exercise. Compensation connection, we have several firms that I've worked with in the past who have taken this so seriously that they have this as a weighting mechanism inside their compensation formula, and they attribute X amount of bonus structure into the quality and performance of timekeeping measured by velocities or lag metrics, as we stated here. And again, the business development connection, trust and transparency. A statement saying Our law firm takes recording our work seriously. The accuracy of recording work is important. And it's important for our clients that when, the work displays on an invoice, it's credible and there is trust in that mechanism and transparency. If one of your clients wants access to the status of the file, it's nice to see that time is in on that day and not constructed at the end of the month. So connecting velocity and demonstrating that externally that we have a policy is part of business development, promoting trust and transparency. Okay, and again, unlike, we've improved our timekeeping as a internal profitability exercise, your clients typically don't engage in that value. That's your value, it's not theirs. This one can contribute to, the law firm goals and your client's goals as well. And the technology does play a role. The right technology plays a role specifically to reduce the gap, the distance between I did the work and now I have to capture it. How far do I have to travel to get that time in? If it's a long way, then it's going to be difficult to engage in a carrot type motivation exercise. It's going to be much more along the lines of a stick approach because the application is a barrier. It's too far away for the type of capture we're trying to achieve. So we're connecting now to the technology. It contributes to the carrot approach, obviously, making the complex simple and accessible, okay? Again, going back to the step, it's simple, it's easy to understand, it's accessible. If that metric was not on the phone or on the watch and you had to come back, load a computer, look at it and see where you're at, that would change the game. It would not be as effective. The fact that it's accessible through the phone, through the watch, and it's simple and it's one big number, and that's why it contributes to that motivation factor and the carrot approach. And what you see here is an example of complexity versus simplicity. Again, I'm bringing up, and again, this is ad hoc screen that I picked up. It resembles a data entry screen from many type of ERP entry applications. Put in 5 minutes, 15 minutes at time. There's a lot of noise. Here, there's simplicity here. You just type what you think. It's a conversation. It's not a clerical exercise. And this is, again, we'll talk more about this in other truths in future webinars about, compliance versus capture. But here you can see the impact of complexity and the contribution of simplicity to the carrot approach. And over here, when we say accessibility, we also mean accessibility that it's always around. So regardless if I'm in any application, I am not traveling far to capture what I'm working on, okay? So this is an example of technology playing a role and contributing to improving that metric, which is the lag metric. And of course, that lag metric, again, contributes to a motivation aligned to a carrot approach as opposed to a stick approach. So as far as summary and takeaways, timekeeping is challenging. We know that. Procrastination is prevalent still. It's not gone away. It's still there to various degrees. Understanding what is good timekeeping requires a metric, so we could say, yes, we've improved timekeeping performance in our firm by X% over the last 6 months. That can be an objective statement delivered to firm leadership. Lag to capture is that metric. It is undisputable in terms of its connection to the quality of time inventory and performance of timekeeping. Motivation has relied on the stick progressive firms are looking at the carrot, okay, with metrics, technology, it can happen, okay? And of course, obviously, the metric I just mentioned that plays the role in the carrot motivation, and best of breed technology, i.e. accessible and simple, plays a role in that motivation as well. Okay. Thank you very much. And again, I'll pass it back to Rita. We welcome any questions at this time. I believe it's through text that we're delivering those questions.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. Great presentation. There is one question here. There's someone, I'm going to translate it to you. So someone is asking about ticket solution. How is the integration with Brazilian systems? I know, well, I know we are, just a moment, Peter. I know we are done with the time, so we're going to address these questions very quickly. You just have 2 questions here. So, okay.
Okay. Well, I mean, any time system integration, if it doesn't integrate, it's not effective. Any specialized timekeeping system, like tickets or any other, it has to integrate. It's built for integration because it's a method of capture. The role of this system is to improve the capture process. It's not a home for the time. The home for the time is somewhere else. So the integration has been done in many, many forms, many, many ways, and into hundreds of systems already. In fact, every system that we install has to be integrated. So we've never come across one that cannot be integrated.
Okay, thank you. Another question. Yeah, there is one person asking, how exactly ticket works? Can you demonstrate it?
That's going to be, that's one of the future webinars. I think we will have a demonstration of the product after the webinar series. I think it's webinar number 4, where we're doing the full presentation of the product.
Also, there is another person asking also for integration with Outlook.
Yes, and that's again, that's one of the things is when we talk about proximity, how close the system has to be where people work. And that's a great point. It has to be close within Outlook. It has to be existing. It has to be on the desktop. It cannot be far. It has to be integrated into the work processes of the lawyer. And again, that could be demonstrated when we present what best of breed technology and ticket looks like.
Okay, great. So I'm going back to Portuguese, right, Peter? So just finishing here. Então, queria agradecer a todo mundo que participou. Peço desculpas por esses minutinhos que a gente passou. Então, a princípio, a gente está à disposição de vocês para tirar dúvidas que possam surgir depois do webinar. Eu vou colocar aqui no chat também o meu e-mail. Quem quiser pode me escrever, quiser mais informações. No nosso site também, a gente tem mais informações sobre o Carpe Diem, que é o produto da Ticket, e tem estudos de caso, falando sobre timekeeping, melhores práticas. Então, vou pôr aqui o link do nosso site também, que vocês podem navegar por lá, está tudo em português. Deixa eu ver o que mais. Bom, nosso próximo encontro é dia 12 de agosto, no mesmo horário, às 12 horas. A gente vai mandar um link para todos vocês se inscreverem no próximo webinar. O Peter vai tratar de duas verdades, né, no próximo. Eu espero encontrar todos vocês lá. E obrigada pela presença. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Rita. Everyone have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.